Hey y'all, thanks for stopping in. It's been a couple weeks, took a little vacation, came back, and then got the new upper respiratory sickness that's been going around. Ran through the house, so we've just been battling the sickness and watching Christmas movies and stuff like that, so it hasn't been the worst. But at the same time, when you have goals, it's hard to achieve them when sickness, causes everything to come to a screeching halt, right? But anyways, I got this story here, and I've been wanting to talk about it for, a week, and it seems like every single day, more news about this comes out. I want to go ahead and cover as much of this story as possible, and I think it's relevant and important in the culture battle, considering, every company in the technocracy wants to, push this DE&I and the ESG scores, and it seems like people are really waking up to what's going on, honestly. And for the most part, the more people learn, the more they want to resist this type of movement, essentially. They want to move away from the DE&I. They want to get back to merit-based, good ideas rising to the surface, and bad ideas being shunned from existence. But we have this story, and I'm going to start off with, Saturday Night Live's blunder. Elise Stefanik's office rips SNL's unfunny, morally bankrupt comedians for spewing anti-Semitic trash and sketch mocking her for challenging the vile answers from the university presidents in Congress. Now, if you don't know what she's talking about, let me go ahead and just play the video for you right now. But everything stems from this point, so let's watch together.
Dr. Kornbluth,
Yes.
at MIT, does calling for the genocide... Dr. Kornbluth,
Yes.
at MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or no?
If the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted at an individual.
I'm sorry, but she's literally just mimicking the person that answered before her, right? She literally just parroted the same phrase.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism?
It's also a part of bullying.
I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
This is Harvard. I mean, more than Harvard here. MIT, Harvard.
No.
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Unacceptable answers across the board. I can't believe that they had such a hard time answering those questions. Calling for the genocide of anybody constitutes as bullying and harassment. I do agree with Elise Stefanik that these people should resign immediately. It wasn't hard for Elon Musk to figure this out, and he answered for them. Another one from the Daily Mail. Elon Musk takes a swipe at under fire Harvard president Claudine Gay as he offers to help out with her stance on campus anti-Semitism. Elon Musk has taken a swipe at under fire Harvard president Claudine Gay as he offered to help her out on campus anti-Semitism. Musk posted on X, "Let me help them out here. Calling for the genocide of anyone obviously constitutes harassment." He was commenting on a post from billionaire Harvard donor and alumnus Bill Ackman, who has demanded Gay to resign after she refused to say that calling for the genocide of Jews was harassment. Ackman's post was accompanied by a video of Gay being grilled by Elise Stefanik, the one we just watched. Ackman, a hedge fund manager who in 2014 gave $26 million to the university, said on Tuesday he was outraged by Gay's performance. And why wouldn't he? It was completely outrageous if you're an alumnus to any of these three schools, which is Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. I never knew what MIT stood for, to be honest. Let me help out here. Calling for the genocide of anyone constitutes harassment. Elon Musk, December 6th, 2023. Ackman, who is Jewish, accused her of profound moral bankruptcy and said she and other university presidents who spoke at a congressional hearing on Tuesday must resign in disgrace. And I 100% agree. Gay was called to testify before the House committee along with the president of the University of Pennsylvania, Elizabeth McGill, and the president of MIT, Sally Kornbluth, who is Jewish. She spells her name cool, Korn, with a K. All three women were pressed by Stefanik. Okay, we saw this. Okay, so, which takes me over to this next article here. Bill Ackman claims Harvard president Claudine Gay was only appointed because of DEI after her shameful refusal to denounce campus protests calling for Jewish genocide. Bill Ackman has claimed that the president Claudine Gay was only appointed because she fitted the DEI office's criteria after her shameful refusal to denounce campus protests calling for a Jewish genocide. The 57-year-old billionaire hedge funder has been heavily involved in the debate after expressing his views about Gay clearly on social media and calling for her resignation. Gay and the presidents of UPenn and MIT were eviscerated for telling Congress that calls for the genocide of Jews do not violate their codes of conduct, sparking a huge backlash. Ackman today wrote on X, "I learned from someone with first-person knowledge of the Harvard president's search that the committee would not consider a candidate who did not meet DEI office's criteria." And this is what DEI gets you. Kamala Harris, Karine Jean-Pierre, and this lady. The same was likely true for other elite universities doing searches at the same time, creating an even more limited universe for DEI-eligible presidential candidates. And that makes me wonder, what do these woke university presidents, look like right now? As a white man, I'm wondering if I'm represented. Let's just go ahead and read the entire thing. I learned from someone with first-person knowledge of the Harvard president search that the committee would not consider a candidate who did not meet the DEI office's criteria. The fact there's a DEI office says enough to me that This university is woke out of their mind. The same was likely true for other elite universities doing searches at the same time, creating an even more limited universe of DEI-eligible presidential candidates. Shrinking the pool of candidates based on required race, gender, and or sexual orientation criteria is not the right approach to identifying the best leaders for our most prestigious universities, or anywhere for any job or any position in anything, I'll add. And it is also not good for those awarded the office of president who find themselves in a role that they would likely not have obtained were it not for a fat finger on the scale. I have been called brave for my tweets over the last few weeks. The same could be said for those who called out Joseph McCarthy during the Red Scare. I don't think it will be long before we look back on the last few years of free speech suppression and the repeated career-ending accusations of racists for those who questioned the DEI movement. We are all shortly going to realize that the DEI criteria is the McCarthy era part 2. History rhymes, but it does not repeat. And all this comes as the president of the University of Pennsylvania published a groveling video statement attempting to explain her failure to condemn calls for the genocide of Jewish people on campuses. On Wednesday, amid widespread outrage of her remarks, she published a video but refused to apologize directly for her answer. She said she was not focused on the issue and said she wanted to be clear that calls for genocide were evil, plain and simple. She said the blame lie with her university's policies and the Constitution rather than with her. Of course, she's not going to be accountable for the words that came out of her mouth. She's going to blame that on other people. She was just doing what she was told, right? Like, get the heck out of here with that bull crap. Nobody's falling for that anymore. And, okay, it looks like we got her apology video maybe right here. Let's go and play it.
There was a moment during yesterday's congressional hearing on anti-Semitism when I was asked if a call for the genocide of Jewish people on our campus would violate our policies. In that moment, I was focused on our university's longstanding policies aligned with the U.S. Constitution, which say that speech alone is not punishable. I was not focused on, but I should have been, the irrefutable fact that a call for genocide of Jewish people.
She should have been focused on being human, being aware of the situation and the circumstances. What an idiot. Now that she has backlash, she's going to come out here and apologize, right? She's going to say some nonsense and try to save her skin.
Is a call for some of.
But we already know her true thoughts, right? They let you know. These woke Democrat, leaders, they're all actually racist. They're anti-Semites. Allegedly, right? You got to say that. You can't just take them by their word. You got to still alleged.
Irrefutable fact that a call for genocide of Jewish people is a call for some of the most terrible violence human beings can perpetrate. It's evil, plain and simple. I want to be clear. A call for genocide of Jewish people is threatening, deeply so. It is intentionally meant to terrify a people who have been subjected to pogroms and hatred for centuries and were the victims of mass genocide in the Holocaust.
But you told Congress something different. You're an idiot. I've watched enough of this to know that you should not be the president of UPenn. Get out of here. In that moment where I was sitting in front of Congress, I was focused on our university's long-standing policies, aligned with the Constitution, which says free speech alone is not punishable. Tell that to the woke left who tries to remove everybody from everything. Alex Jones finally just got brought back to, well, not brought back because it's X now, it's not Twitter, but he's finally brought into X, the supposed free speech platform. It's getting better. Elon still needs to unsuspend all the MAGA accounts. I know multiple that are still suspended, and they have been for years. But that's beyond the fact. That's another story, right? Let's get back to this here. And so now, the Harvard president, Claudine Gay, is hit with plagiarism accusations, which she denies and says she stands by the integrity of my scholarship as she faces pressure to step down after disastrous congressional hearing. So now she's accused of being a DEI hire who plagiarized something. Let's read more about this. Harvard president Claudine Gay has denied plagiarizing work during her academic career amid mounting pressure to step down after her disastrous congressional hearing. In a statement to the Boston Globe on Monday, Gay said, I stand by the integrity of my scholarship. Throughout my career, I've worked to ensure my scholarship adheres to the highest academic standards. It comes after billionaire hedge fund boss and Harvard alum Bill Ackman shared accusations of plagiarism made against Gay by bloggers Christopher Rufo and Christopher Brunet, who claimed the Harvard leader lifted identical wording for her 1997 dissertation. The 53-year-old is facing intense scrutiny after she failed to condemn anti-Semitism in a shocking exchange before the New York Republican rep Elise Stefanik on Capitol Hill last week. Gay replied that it depended on context whether calls for genocide of Jews at Harvard constituted harassment and violated the rules. But so far, the University of Pennsylvania, Liz McGill, is the only one of the 3 Ivy League presidents who have stepped down following their testimony last week. But pressure is mounting on Harvard to let go of Gay. While pressure is mounting on Gay to resign, with 2 billboard trucks replaying Gay's testimony around the Harvard campus and demanding her firing. She appears to have the university's institutional support. Well, of course, they're woke and they hired their DEI face for the reason. They're not just going to back out on her. The executive committee of Harvard's University Alumni Association announced their full support for the scholar and asked the school's governing boards to publicly back her, according to the Harvard Crimson. Yeah, that might be a bad idea considering she's literally preaching anti-Semitism in Congress. It's something that they really should not double down and get behind. But, if they want to, and then people want to, rich people still want to send their kids there, then, I guess their kids just won't get hired by anybody that matters because there's already organizations out there that saying until this happens, until these 3 people are fired, and they change their stance around this DE&I, that they're not going to hire anybody that graduated from these places. So, why would you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars or whatever it takes to finish 4 years of a degree from this school when it's immediately going to disqualify you because of the place that it came from? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense why people would continue to go there and support this. But, they want to be anti-Semitic from the top down and support this lady, then go ahead. I am for free speech, and if they want to tell us who they are, then, I'll believe them. As simple as that. But the group wrote, President Gay is the right leader to guide the university during this challenging time. She is thoughtful, she is kind, she is resolute, dedicated to the growth of well-being for our very diverse community, except for the Jewish people, right? We recognize that there was disappointment in her testimony last week. President Gay has pointed this out and apologized for any pain her testimony caused, a powerful demonstration of her integrity, determination, and courage. It's really easy to apologize. Just say you're sorry. That her heart is where her heart is, and that is that she's an anti-Semite that, allegedly, of course, again, that is okay with people calling for the death of Jews, right? That's what From River to the Sea means. And so she's all right with that. And, I'm just glad that she's not canceled to the point where we can't see this. But let's look more into this plagiarism. Swain reacted to the claims on Twitter, writing, I just learned of the analysis of Claudine Gay's work and the allegations of plagiarism. I have not read the articles or books in question. However, 2 things come to mind. Imitation is said to be the highest form of flattery. And secondly, Dr. Gay's committee, reviewers, and colleagues should have caught these alleged transgressions. Well, they should have, but if they're trying to promote somebody that looks a certain way for their DE&I score, they're going to overlook some of those important details, just so they can put the face in there, that they want, apparently. But generally, Harvard's institutional group seem to be standing by Gay. So Harvard is not a place that you should want to send your child unless they're anti-Semitic, right? Unless the child's anti-Semitic, and then they can just go to school at the anti-Semitic school, right? Allegedly. So anyways, let's go back to this first article. Top Republican Elise Stefanik's team is firing back at NBC's Saturday Night Live's appalling sketch depicting testimony from the presidents of Harvard, UPenn, and MIT regarding anti-Semitism at the nation's top universities. Stefanik's line of questioning featured in the sketch came during a hearing last week where she put the liberal university's presidents in the hot seat, asking them whether calling for genocide of Jews would violate their school's code of conduct. The presidents were labeled anti-Semites and blasted for failing to immediately condemn any calls for genocide. Well, not only did they fail to immediately condemn, they pretty much didn't condemn the calls for genocide at all. They acted like it needed context and other layers when it was all simple. And while SNL thought the congressional testimonies were a laughing matter, the consequences were real for UPenn's Liz McGill, who was forced to resign. And good, I'm glad that at least one of the three are out, but hopefully the other two will resign or be fired soon. They should be fired. There shouldn't be any hesitation. These, universities should be like, out. Can't say that. Top advisor for the leadership Republican told Daily Mail that although Stefanik did not watch the skit, her office has been flooded with messages from Republicans and Democrats who are appalled and disgusted by the anti-Semitic trash spewed by unfunny, morally bankrupt comedians. SNL made history with the worst cold open ever because everyone knows there's absolutely no humor in the vile answers from the university presidents regarding their failure to condemn calls for the genocide of the Jewish people, said senior advisor Alex DeGrasse. If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes, McGill told Stefanik last week. Pressed further, she said, it is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman. Let's see here. In a statement Saturday, Stefanik told McGill's forced resignation is the bare minimum of what is required and said Harvard and MIT should follow suit. And they've already waited too long. One down, two to go, Stefanik said, adding that this is only the very beginning of addressing the pervasive rot of anti-Semitism that has destroyed the most prestigious higher education institutions in America. I would go a step further and say it's not even the most prestigious higher education institutions. I would say it's probably the majority of education institutions in America. That's just my educated guess. Universities across the U.S. have been accused of failing to protect Jewish students amid rising fears of anti-Semitism worldwide and fallout from Israel's intensifying war in Gaza, which faces heightened criticism for the mounting Palestinian death toll. Former SNL star Cecily Strong even backed out of the offensive skit about the congressional hearings on anti-Semitism on campus, according to a new report. Strong 39 was scheduled to play Rep. Elise Stefanik on Saturday and even participated in dress rehearsal before the live show and was replaced by newcomer Chloe Trost. Fox News' The Five host Greg Gutfeld was one of many critics on the sketch, writing on X how to explain SNL siding with Ivy League neo-racists, wondering what colleges the writers attended. Rabbi Shmuel Reichman said the skit was the most embarrassing he'd ever seen. Unfortunately, this is not surprising. SNL hasn't had their finger on the pulse for about a decade now. I'd say probably even longer. They're about as out of touch with reality as Liz McGill. This is probably the most embarrassing decision in SNL's history, the author wrote. Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray, Will Ferrell, and Adam Sandler are probably shaking their heads in disgust somewhere, embarrassed by how low SNL has sunk since their heyday. Fellow rabbi and writer David Bashkevin added, SNL's Achilles heel is thinking the joke is always on Trump. I'm an SNL fan, but this was such a fail. Well, I don't know why he's an SNL fan, but whatever. Just saw last night's SNL opener. Whether or not you care, or however you feel about anti-Semitism on college campuses, this just wasn't funny, Friedman said. Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt, on his part, tweeted, the skit was atrocious, the sentiment even more appalling. And North Carolina Republican Greg Murphy demanded nothing short of full-fledged apology from entire staff of SNL following the skit. He wrote on X, attacking Rep. Stefanik instead of anti-Semitic progressive presidents rings of their own anti-Semitism. Typical damn liberal hypocrisy. And I agree with that. And pretty much that's the case right now. It seems like the liberal hive mind seems to be going the route of these people that bullied us for liking Trump over anything and everything, called us every ist and ism there is for the past 6, 7, 8 years, even going back into the Obama era. If you'd question anything that he did, you're a racist. But, it turns out that these folks are the real anti-Semites. These people are the ones that have been projecting themselves onto us, which is something that we need to protect ourselves from doing. A lot of times we project our kind self onto a person who doesn't deserve it, and then that person takes advantage. We need to be more cautious. Not everybody's kind and caring like you are, like we are, right? Let's continue. The Babylon Bee's editor-in-chief Kyle Mann said, "It's actually pretty incredible how the skit featured liberals being unwilling to call genocide bad. The punchline of the joke just shows how unfunny you can get if you're unwilling to make fun of people on your side." The SNL creator Lorne Michaels was born to a Jewish family from Toronto before he moved to LA in 1968. He created SNL in 75 and has overseen it for most of its 50-year run. The pre-written sketch was rolled out just hours after University of Pennsylvania President Amy McGill, who resigned in disgrace following a woeful performance from these past 8 weeks. I'm not going to actually play the SNL clip. I haven't seen it. And I'm going to take these people's word for it that it's a bunch of trash. To sum this all up, I believe that DE&I is taking a huge hit right now. This year has not been the year for DE&I. The Bud Light boycott, the backlash, the awareness that it spread, the Target backlash from the tuck-friendly bathing suits next to child-sized pride clothes. It rubs the normies the wrong way. There's a lot more normies than there are of these folks that DE&I is trying to cater to. The more normies wake up to this, the more DE&I, ESG becomes prevalent in the open. It just reveals, it shines light on these things that most people don't actually align with. Why would you send your child to a school, spend all that money at a university so that they can become an anti-Semite? It doesn't make sense for these universities to not have fired these people immediately. They can go hire another DEI face that isn't so anti-Semitic openly. This has been long. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.